Hello, everyone. So we are so glad you're here. Welcome to another episode of Talks and Flow series. So before we dive in, a big thank you to our sponsor, Gainsight, for supporting our series, and their support helps us bring these sessions to life. Check out the website to learn more. We'll be putting them in the chat section. And before we dive in, so we would like to hear from where you all logged in today. So just pin us your location and also your LinkedIn profile in the chat. Okay, so we also like to tell you about our upcoming events. So we can see the events in the led by community/events page. So one is the upcoming event on May 15th, tomorrow. The title is AI Sharing Notes, What We Are Testing and Learning. And on July 7 to 9, we'll be coming up with London Community Week 2026. And before we dive in, there are some housekeeping rules. So as we go through the session, feel free to drop your questions for Avital in the chat, and we'll be picking them at the end of the session. And also, the recording will be available in our website right here for you to revisit anytime. Okay, let's get started. So first, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Avital. Avital is the head of ecosystem at Orchid Security and a community strategist focused on building and scaling communities in high growth environments. She previously built the community function at Wiz from the ground up, helping drive growth through acquisition. Her work sits at the intersection of community, product, marketing, and revenue. Avital is passionate about creating communities that scale intentionally, strengthen customer relations, and become a strategic driver for growth. Welcome, Avital.
Sorry, I was muted. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here today. We can dive directly in. Sorry, I'm going to share my screen. And we can start talking about, can everyone see my screen? Yeah, great. So we can start talking about building community that scales and the lessons I've learned from hypergrowth to acquisition. So this whole session is not going to be a theoretical session. We're going to talk about what I've built in real environments, from my work in nonprofits to hyper-growth startups like Wiz, and now building the ecosystem strategy at Orchid. The questions that I kept on coming back to across all those stages of community was, what actually makes community hold up as the company grows, changes, and scales? And we're going to talk about everything that worked for me, broke, what I would do differently if I were starting again. And I'll start a little bit with who I am. So my foundation. So I didn't actually start in tech. I started a nonprofit. Nonprofit community builders are also fundraisers normally, which means that, do you guys see me? No, I don't know what's going on. Sorry. So nonprofit community builders are also fundraisers. That means that we are directly responsible for the company's ROI. And if there is no strong donor community, there is no money for the company. So very, very early on, I learned to see community through outcomes and not just activity. That really shaped how I entered into tech. So I never really treated community just as a marketing function. From the beginning, community was for me a system that creates ROI across the business, not just as an engagement tool, but an actual builder of revenue. Yes, of course, community supports marketing, but also it supports product, feedback, customer success, partnerships, sales. And this is the mindset of the foundation of my approach into scaling community. Once I started seeing community as an infrastructure, the question changed from how do we grow it to how do I make it hold as we scale. So it kind of is a different way of looking at community. So why does this matter? One of the key lessons I've learned is that community changes meaning as company grows. So in early stages, it's often about awareness, engagement, but as you scale, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes about trust. At scale, it really becomes something that customers are learning from each other through faster. And then they can obviously learn from the company. And it becomes about reducing friction in adoption, decision-making, and credibility. So in practice, community stops being a layer on top of the business, and it becomes part of how the business actually operates. And that is the shift that most teams underestimate when they start scaling a community. So, my journey. So, the clearest lessons for me came from experiencing community in two different environments. I mean, I've done many before, but these are the two big ones that I like to focus on, what I'm doing now at Orchid and what I did at Wiz, mainly because it's two completely different environments. So, Wiz, I joined in a hypergrowth stage. We started building the community. I've learned from that. What it means to build community where everything is moving really, really fast. So expectations are really high and scale is constant. Versus at Orchid, where I am right now, what I've been learning is that it means what it means to build a community earlier in the life cycle. Like our community in Orchid started when we only had 5 customers, right? So this is a completely different situation from what we had in Wiz, where I started with over 500 customers already. So the focus in a strategic scale phase is more about depth and precision and relationship quality. But across both of them, my biggest realization was that there is no community playbook. What works at one stage can completely break at another stage. So building community that scales is really about understanding context, not just tactics, right? So the biggest mistakes companies make, in my opinion, that I see that confuses companies and the audience and the community is that to me was one of the things that I've first internalized as well. An audience listens and a community participates. These are two things. A community is not an audience. A community is a group of people who participate. An audience is transactional. A community is relational. And I think there's this really big confusion for companies thinking that audience and community are the same. They're not, right? They're two different things. We're looking for two different completely situations. The most important one is that an audience is built around the company, but a community is built around the members and them connecting with one another. So the shift is not about broadcasting better to the community. It's about digging for stronger relationships and designing it for the customers or the prospects. Depends on what kind of community you're building. And I think that is the biggest first step in terms of going towards scale, that you as a community manager need to be able to communicate with the company you work at, right? I feel like a lot of times, for example, at Wiz for us, a lot of times when I would talk with the founders, they would talk with me about how we can use this platform to do ABC. Yes, we can do that, but that's not the goal, right? The goal is not for me to be talking to them, but it's actually for me to be learning with them. Okay, let's talk about what actually makes community scale. The biggest lessons I've learned, we're going to talk now about a couple of things. One, the biggest lessons I've learned, it's going to be in the next couple of slides. And this is going to be about the 5 consistent foundations that I defined for our communities to scale under growth and not collapse. So first of all, let's talk about shared identity. People in the community need to feel like they belong. So it's your responsibility to think about, how do I make this space feel like it's theirs? Number 2, clear value exchange. So there has to be a reason to stay and participate. It can't just be, conversations, you need to actually create something that is valuable for them to stay there. It could be learning, it could be visibility, it could be helping them to grow in their career, peer support, etc. I think led by community is a good example for these things, right? You see in led by community, the job board, for example. You have a lot of people you can learn from in this community. So a clear value exchange is very, very key. Number 3 is consistency. Community is built through repetition, not moments. Sometimes it feels like it's redundant to us, but actually creating programs like the one that we are in right now creates this sense of repetition. People know what they're waiting for and what they could be doing. It's like waiting for your favorite show on TV, So people are expecting that, and that also creates a sense of familiarity. Number 4 is membership ownership. So the more members feel like it's theirs and they contribute, the more scalable the community will become. And last one is operational structure. So the systems, rituals, alignments, that all allows it to grow without breaking. So a big lesson here is that structure doesn't actually reduce authenticity. It actually contributes to it, and it protects it when it scales. So as we grow, the structure helps authenticity grow as well. So remember that. That's like my biggest 5 foundations. But now we're going to go a little bit into the biggest lessons that I have learned. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned from hypergrowth is that everything gets amplified, right? So if something works, it scales incredibly fast. If something is weak, it breaks as fast. The instinct is to scale everything at once, like reach, engagement, programs. But what actually works better is being intentional about what you scale, right? The company is growing. One program works very, very well. Let's scale this one. And then slowly let's scale the other program. There's this sense of, okay, if everything is growing fast, everything has to grow fast. It's not the right thing to do, especially if you don't have the head count. What actually works better is being intentional, deciding what you're scaling. In many cases, depth matters more than, having a lot of different things. So a small number of strong, high trust interaction is far more valuable than a large but shallow system. I'll give you an example. At Wiz, we had a lot of different products and features. Product really wanted to have a channel for each product. As a customer, do I actually understand what's the name of each feature that I am using? Probably not. As we scale and you're adding more channels, you're actually making a situation where people do not know where to post. So you have a bunch of channels that are dead. No one's actually using them versus having a small amount of channels that work very, very well and making sure that your people, your moderators, are in the right spaces for the conversation to grow. So again, like I said, depth matters more than growing linearly in some situations. The other thing is consistency becomes really critical because, again, fast-moving environments need rituals that keep communities stable while everything else is changing, right? It's also something we feel as human beings. When the world is completely changing around us, we want to have one thing that we can hold on to that feels consistent. We want the community to be that thing for our customers/prospects, whoever is in the community. Okay, another lesson that I've learned is that community is not just external, it's deeply internal. Even if you are building a community that is for customers and prospects and external people, it's still deeply internal. It sits in the intersection of multiple functions: product, marketing, sales, customer success, partnerships. Community is a connector of all these things. And a large part of scaling community is actually solving internal problems through it. Okay? So we are problem solvers. Our role becomes less about managing engagement and more about acting as an internal connector. I will explain in the next slide what I mean by that. So when I start in any organization, or if there's a major shift for the the organization. What I normally do is instead of asking, how do I grow engagement? I start asking every team these following questions. What are your bottlenecks as a team? Where are customers struggling? Where are feedback loops missing? And then I look at how community could help close the gaps. Okay. And again, you can think about other kind of questions is, for example, also what would make your team more effective, right? Listen to people. This is where community stops being a support function and starts becoming a system that connects organizations, right? Like instead of looking at community as a place for customers to just come and speak with one another to solve issues, it can be something much larger. And one of the clearest examples that I had is, I'm going to give two actual examples. One is with product feedback loops, and one is with my SE organization, solution engineer organization at Wiz. So let's start with the SEs. At Wiz, it was very clear with the solution engineering team. Oh, sorry, sorry. They needed SEs to ramp quickly. Wiz was growing very, very, very quickly. So they had to, hire a lot of different solution engineers very quickly. They needed them to ramp quickly, but they also needed to have the confidence that these people could be actually customer facing. So instead of treating onboarding as separate from community, we integrated the two, and we designed a system where new SEs became community moderators during onboarding. So I called it community service. So for example, at Wiz, what we had was 3 months of technical training, then 3 months of shadowing. Then after 6 months, the solution engineer was ready to talk with customers. So the shadowing period, after they had their technical onboarding, the shadowing period was when they would go into community service, which means they had now access to all of our customers. They were now in front of real customer questions. They're still learning the product, and they're still learning how to customer face. They're still shadowing, but they're getting a lot more of real cases and actual knowledge that they can use before they are customer facing as a one-person solution engineer and not a shadowing kind of duo. What this program created was very cool in Wiz. So first of all, we accelerated learning for the SEs. We gave them a lot more confidence, and they've learned more about the product a lot quicker than what they have before we added this program. For the community, it improved responsiveness because I had now not one moderator, but a group of SEs that just finished training. It increased the quality of technical engagement as well. And it also helped us with a better member experience. And in general, we had upsells coming from this as well, because the community again was much faster. People felt that they understand what we're doing better. So the key lessons for me here is that best community programs don't just serve members, they solve internal company constraints at the same time. So the dual impact is what makes them scalable. And that the same principle carried directly into product work as well, right? What do I mean by that? That would be the community beta program. So we've built a community beta program, which basically meant product feedback loops. Our product needed customers testing new features. They didn't have access to a lot of them. And Wiz had different features coming out on a monthly basis, if not a weekly basis. So instead of relying on only internal testing, we created a huge program for community. Members got early access to different features before they launched, and this completely changed the dynamic. Customers weren't just users anymore, they were part of product development, and that created ownership. the ownership naturally turned into advocacy, right? Because now if there's a person asking about something in the community, and I have a customer that just tried a feature that solved this thing, they will respond in the community being like, hey, Wiz is actually creating a new feature doing exactly that. I've just tested it. It's amazing. So people started explaining and promoting features inside the community itself, which ultimately improved both our adoption, but also upsells and trust, right? So let's talk a little bit about metrics that I think actually matters. Once you start scaling your community across multiple parts of the business, measurement becomes a critical lesson. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that vanity metrics don't reflect real community health. And when I say vanity metrics, I mean likes, impressions, events, registrations, these things. Yes, we want to measure them, but they're not what actually reflects the health of our community. What matters more is the behavior over time. So repeat participation, peer-to-peer interaction, and value created between members. Another key indicator is how often community influences outcomes, right? So you can see that on the second column here. So introductions, feedback quality, retention, signals, expansion, these kind of things. At a certain point, we start sensing community health before we can fully even measure it, right? I want community to be involved in everything that the company does. And so, yes, it's nice if I have community likes and impressions and events, but it would be even cooler if I can show that thanks to the community, we now have 4 new features because these were requests from the community. Then product developed them, then product brought them back to the community, and we had our community bring in their feedback and beta test it, and then the community itself helps sell it. So that's kind of how I now measure community versus just likes and impressions. And this also ties into how do we get the executive buy-in? So again, one of the hardest lessons in building scalable community is translating it into business language. You need to be a linguist when you are building a scalable community. You need to learn how to speak the languages of all of the different departments you're working with to understand their issues. But the most important thing is that then you need to take this and learn how to translate it into business. So executives don't really understand just engagement metrics. They want to see the impact, right? So the framing that works best is operational, faster trust cycles, stronger retention, better product feedback, improved customer outcomes, these kind of things. When you frame community that way, it stops being seen as a soft initiative and becomes a strategic lever. And that's when it starts getting real support from within the company. Okay, what actually changes after acquisition or a major scale event? So Wiz was acquired last year by Google. It was a huge acquisition. So we went through hypergrowth and then a huge acquisition. One of the most important lessons I've learned is that community is emotionally sensitive during changes. So whether it's acquisition, rapid scaling, major organizational shifts, members feel it before anything is communicated structurally. So silence is the biggest risk. When something big is happening, you need to be ready. There's an acquisition, community needs to be ready. You need to be able to say something about this to help people calm down. Over communication becomes really essential. Not just updates, but clarity on identity and continuity. People become really attached to the community, and they become attached to the idea of belonging to it. So we need to prevent the sense that they're losing their belonging. And the community is still stable through the change. Okay, practical playbook. Let's talk about how I normally would do this. Again, I want to say, and I said that before, community looks differently in each company. So this is kind of how I look at things when I come in, but it doesn't mean that this is completely like a Bible, right? Use this lightly. But first, what I like to do is identify natural connectors. So that is between the community itself, right? Customers that I see as like good ambassadors, prospects that I think is good ambassadors, but also within the organization. Who in marketing has the appetite to work with me? Who in product has the appetite to work with me? Same goes with sales, solution engineering, etc. Then I like to build a rhythm, something that is repeatable, some repeatable interactions, and creating consistency. Then I move toward distributed ownership, where members start shaping the community themselves. I need to help them with that, right? This is where I guide them through this part. You need to remember that you're not building something you control, you're building something you enable, right? So you are helping them, you guide them, but you're not necessarily telling them what to do. This would really help you scale. If you listen to your community and do what they need and want, there's more chances people will stay there. And again, first 30 days, first 90 days, first year, this is kind of the way I look at things. It doesn't mean that this is the perfect way of doing it. You need to come into your organization and understand, A, what the company wants from this, right? Like, why did they want to have a community? And B, also, how can you contribute? And then how do you practically build this in a way that will enable your community to grow it? Okay, hard truth about community. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that community is slow until it suddenly isn't. So most of the work happens invisibly before it even becomes visible. Another truth is that trust cannot be accelerated. It only compounds through consistency over time. Bigger doesn't automatically mean better. Engagement is not the same as impact. And at its core, this work is very much an emotional labor. It's relational, it's repetitive, and it's often invisible. But when it works, it becomes consistent. It's gold. So yes, what we're doing is a lot emotionally. And yes, there's a lot of invisible work. And we need to be able to communicate that slow doesn't mean bad. It means we're building it correctly. Okay. The future of community. One of the biggest shifts I've seen in community in the last couple of years is that community is really becoming an infrastructure. So it's no longer just a layer around companies. It's becoming a system where people learn, share, and make decisions together. I think one of the reasons is AI. Like, people feel like they need to speak with real people. And just to be clear, I think AI could be a really good tool to help you with community, but it could never replace you as a community manager. So it becomes a peer network for trust and knowledge. And in the world where companies that win are the companies that wins are the ones that build a great ecosystem, not just products. And I think if you've heard about Wiz, that's something amazing that they were able to do. They've built an amazing brand. They've built a huge support system from customers, and that really helped them, be on the map and get to the point where they were acquired by Google. So it's not just about building a great product. It's also about creating a huge and really good ecosystem. Ecosystem scale trust in a way that products alone cannot. There could be another really, really good product exactly like yours. The one that will win would be the one that managed to build an ecosystem of trust. Okay, final takeaways, and then we're very close to Q&A. The biggest lessons I've learned are very simple. Community is not just a marketing channel. It's a long-term strategic system built on trust, consistency, and relationship. its value compounds over time, so often in ways that are not immediately visible, but deeply impactful at scale. And what stays with people is not just a structure or mechanics, it's how the community made them feel, especially during moments of growth and change, right? When things look unstable, community needs to feel stable. That's what I've learned to build towards when I'm building community. But I think the biggest takeaway that I want you guys to take is be a Renaissance mind. Okay? Think outside the box, talk with all departments, make community growth an engine for the company. To me, this mindset changed everything when I understood that I am not just a community builder. I am a problem solver for the company. Everything changed. I became the CEO's, secret person. Everyone is now telling me what they need and share. And that's only because I was able to come in and show that my work affects everyone. And I can find way to solve different issues in what we're doing. That's it. I'm going to stop sharing so I could see people when we ask the questions. And if you do want me to reshare anything just for the sake of the conversation, let me know. Oh, Jay, you're on mute.
Thanks for the awesome session, Avital, and great slides, by the way. And I really liked your practical playbook, that 30-60-day plan up to 1 year, and also your quote, not to own the community, but to enable it. So those some awesome insights. And we have a couple of questions here. So first, this is from Akash. So Akash is asking, like, show me the ROI of community. If is a question that haunts every community builder. So when you're sitting across from a CFO or a CRO, what's the framing that actually lands, not the fluffy version, the one that gets the budget approved?
So just to reiterate, what actually works for ROI? Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, guys, this is a really loaded question, and I'll explain why. For the CFO, for this to actually be something the CFO is going to look at, you need to be able to talk in a completely different language than what we do. I mean, that means work with your Salesforce team if you have them, right? Work with an actual team that understands how to capture different measurements, and then be smart about this. Most systems do not actually have community measuring, tools, and you need to build this with that team. But sit with this team and actually ask them, how do you measure sales? How do you measure customer success? And then ask yourself, okay, if I am solving these different things that I've just showed you, right? Like if I am now tied to product and I want to show the amount of product features that I have, that my community has requested, how many of them actually became a feature or product, and then how many people after they beta tested spoke about it in the community, and then if I can show direct upsells through that, that's key. To do that, we need to have the right systems. So when you choose a community platform, you choose a platform that could easily integrate into the tools that your CRM tools, right? So for example, I'm a big believer in Slack because A, most customers will be in Slack, and B, Slack integrates into Salesforce. I will add any add-ons I need to for it. So, if someone is not on Slack, they'll still be able to access it. There's different platforms that we can discuss that do that. But you need to have the direct way to get everything into community. Number two, this is where AI comes in, right? It's impossible for you to find all these things if you don't have AI in your community. So be able to use a really strong AI tool that will help you identify these different levers. If you come into a company from day one and you tell them, hey guys, I'm a strategic lever, I do all these different things, I'm not just a marketing tool, and they buy into what you're saying, you get from day one a larger you get a large, like more money basically from them, right? So you can sit in tools, and you need these tools to be able to communicate your ROI to your CFO and your CRO. Then the other thing that I would do is always use two things together, numbers and images. So something that's going to help you prove to your CRO or your CEO these different things that you have said that you'll be able to give them, because there's a lot of sentiment and community. We spoke about this. It's an emotional work. So if you can show the emotional side next to the numbers, it's always more powerful. So when I did my SE program, when SEs would come to me and be like, wow, I feel like I'm now much more ready to talk with customers, I would screenshot this and I would put this everywhere when I would talk with the CRO and I would talk with the CFO. Like, you need to see that it's not just about the numbers, it's also about how your SEs are going to function now, because they feel like they are more prepared to speak with customers. So what gets you your budget approved is learn how to speak the language, show them what are the metrics is that you can actually achieve that are not just engagement, show them that you're creative, and then come in and ask for it. So you would be able to also scale and ask for more the next year, obviously. But yes, it's a lot of work, and you need to work with the right people in your company to do this.
Okay. Yeah, it's awesome. So next is from Derek. So he's asking, how do you juggle SE answering questions in the community when it cuts into their potential revenue?
So again, it didn't cut into their potential revenue. This was in their onboarding process, right? They had 3 months of technical onboarding, then 3 months of shadowing. They were not full SEs yet. So in the 3 months of shadowing, there's a limit amount of conversations that they can be exposed to. Community, if it works well at this point and you have messages in there that are coming constantly, will basically put them in front of more use cases than they would ever get when they shadow. So in a way, I'm not hurting their potential revenue, I'm helping their potential revenue, right? Because we're not there yet. And so when they are ready, after they did their 3 months of community service for me, and they go out to the wild and they need to actually become a full-time solution engineer, they're much more equipped to deal with questions because they've seen more use cases.
Okay, awesome. So next we have from Lenka. So Lenka's asking, how do you tell the difference between a project that just needs more consistency and one that actually needs a pivot or should be killed altogether?
That's a really, 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 really good question. And it's one that I will tell you I fail with sometimes as well. Because sometimes I would be really attached to an idea of something that I think could be really cool. And it's just not getting the right engagement that I would hope for it. I always make sure that I have a leader group with me. So I never do community just with myself. I choose my leaders from within the community. And every week we go through things that we think that worked and didn't work and things that they would want to see in the community and so on. So these people represent the community for me. And also they don't just represent them, they also become kind of my like secondary moderators because they feel very obligated and they're very much in the know because they meet me on a monthly basis, not every week, sorry. They meet me on a monthly basis and we speak about everything. We talk about new products coming out. We talk about everything that we have in the community, everything that's coming up. They also would come in and give me ideas and things. And so a lot of times I kind of need a mirror, right? Because I've invested, I worked on this. I want this to continue and to push it forward. But if they come in and they say, listen, it just doesn't resonate, then I need to ask, do I need to pivot here or do I need to kill it?
Okay. So leaders in the group, you mean like kind of champions or the super users, right? From your community.
Leaders, champions, ambassadors, we all call
Yeah.
them in a different way, but
Yeah.
yes.
Different. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this another question from Akash. So he's asking like, what metrics matter at the early stage where such scale? Like, when should community builders stop tracking vanity numbers and start tracking business outcomes? Because he feels if done right, community can start adding business value, if not directly from month one.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Vanity metrics is something that you just too easy, like every community platform. Slack is not even a community platform, right? Slack is a tool to work with your coworkers, and Slack does this. Like Slack tracks your vanity metrics, so you don't really have to work hard. Literally every tool will do that for you. So just let it, track it and put it in your reports, but don't make this the big thing in your report. Never. Always start with tracking business outcomes from day one. The question again is, what are we solving when we start? So when I started the community now, I went again to each department that is involved with customers, and I asked them, what are your problems? What are we solving? Like what, not regarding to community in general. Obviously, we would also talk about what they want from community, but mainly we would talk about what are the things they need. And so the moment I understand what I am working on solving, that's when I build my business metrics according to that. And that's when I start reporting them and working with them. So literally from day one, I absolutely agree. That's how you build trust, especially because like we said before, community starts very slow until it's not. So what do I share internally when it's still slow? How can I prove that what I'm doing is useful for the company when it's still slow? Only if I'm also tracking business outcomes.
Yeah, got it. So when you go on kind of an engagement call, or do you take a survey? Like, how do you make the first initial, like first 30 days or something?
Oh, I speak with them directly. I want to build a relationship with them, right? I want them to feel like I'm a person they can trust, and I'm a person they should actually have a one-on-one with on a weekly or biweekly, cadence, because maybe things will change. When you're in a startup, things move quickly and shift quickly. Yesterday, it might have been this product that needs feedback, but tomorrow we're shifting completely to a different direction. And so this is not relevant anymore. And when you do this from day one and you build this trust, then you're in the know all the time. So that's really important. Like I have a cadence with my CEO, I have a cadence with my CTO, my COO, my CPO. And then I have cadence with people below them that I think are important as well. But I got to the point where I have this cadence with these people because they understand that I am a big business leverage for them, right? I'm now part of their entire life cycle. I come in when someone is still a prospect all the way to become a customer. And these people know me now as well. So I'm essential to their entire cycle because I went in from day one. And I didn't tell them I am building the community tomorrow. I told them I want this thing to solve issues that we as a company need to solve. What are the issues that you are facing with that need customer attention?
Yeah. So next we have final two more questions. So this is one from Rishia. Can you speak more to your pitch to effectively showcase your value?
Sorry, can you repeat this again?
Can you speak more to your pitch to effectively showcase your value?
Trisha, can you explain what you meant by this?
Okay, so yeah, probably we can move to the next question by the time she responds back. So this is one from Lauren. How do you approach that community leader? How do you break that ice and ask them to do that with you?
So again, you need to think about what you're giving them, right? Like, how is this beneficial for them? And so you need to really understand the community that you're building. So I try to have calls with whoever I can. There's two ways. One, if you have people that are just like talking the community all the time, and you see that they're participating, then I will just send a message to them directly, be like, thank you so much for your participation. I'd love to talk with you and hear your thoughts about these different things that we're building for the community. And then I'll hop on a call with them and talk with them and see if they're actually a good fit. And if they are, I will ask them if they want to be a community leader. And then my other thing would be I'll talk with customer success and I would ask them, do you have people that you think that are great, could be great community leaders and are not really engaged in the community right now, but could be more engaged? And then I would ask the customer success manager or the account manager to set a call for me with them. And again, it would be more about, what do you think about these different things in community, and really engage them and see if they feel to me like they could be a good fit. And then the last thing that I really like to do, if you have troublemakers in the community, I like to reach out to them and have the conversation with them and ask them to become a leader, because that, to me, a troublemaker means that this person actually wants to be very much heard. And I can shift their energy from being annoying and not helpful to the energy that I need, because they're in the community anyways and they're very vocal. Let's give them some love and attention and make them like good for the community.
Yeah, got it. So yeah, we have Tisha, like she's asking, when you're selling your expertise as a community builder, I'm wondering how you pitch yourself and your services to show them your value. You spoke to it a little bit, but I was just wondering if you can expand on that.
Yeah. So I literally do what I did with you guys now. I sit down and I ask, so the first thing is I would ask them, what do you expect when you're talking about community? So normally they would explain to me this like very, marketing fluffy kind of thing. They'll talk about how they want engagement and they want people to understand what they're doing. Like it would be something like that. And then I would say, okay, cool. Yeah, this is one of the things that I do, but actually community is a more strategic lever. And I like to work in the intersection of these different departments. And then I start explaining how I can affect each and every different department according to what the company needs, right? So I think if you would come in and say something like, when you're thinking about product, and then you bring in the idea of feedback loops and you show how a feedback loop could create ambassadors for the feature and how the ambassadors for the feature could create the upsell. That's a really good thing to show when you're talking about product. With sales, if you can talk about how you are part of the sales cycle from day one, making sure that once we have a conversation with a prospect, community is already part of it, and then showing how community could really scale this. And because at the end of the day, best sellers are customers, right? So if you put people in a very healthy community, it's harder for them to get out of it and resist it, right? People might say no for a product, but it's hard for them to get away from a sticky product. So again, really talking about each department and how your role could make this department's life easier. That's normally what I would do. That's, and then I speak from experience, and I think that really helps because I have actual examples the way that I've showed you guys. So try to do this now, right? Like wherever you work now, or think about things that you have done before and just try to translate these things into different, again, like I said, you're now a linguist. So try to think about these different programs that you've done, and not just how they created visibility, but also what does this visibility mean for marketing? What does this visibility mean for sales? I'm sure that in a lot of your cases, different things that you have built did these different things without you even knowing, right? For example, you probably reduced the support tickets the company has because community was very responsive, Reducing support tickets means that there's less load on support. You need less support people. Less support people mean that the company is saving money. So you're helping your company save money by answering questions faster than support. Even if the people who are answering the question is other customers and not even moderators, right? You're doing that. So really think about all the departments that engage with customers in different ways and how the programs you've built and the community you've built made their life easier. Translate everything to different departments. And that's how you come in and pitch yourself. You're not just building engagement, you're reducing support tickets, you're creating feedback loops for product, you're helping them with new features, you're accelerating learning about your product through Academy or whatever, right? Like think about each and every program you've made and how you position it with different departments and not community, not engagement, not likes.
Okay. So we have a few more minutes left. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Avital, for this awesome section once again. And thank you all for joining. And thanks for keeping this session totally engaged. And we are at the end. Thank you for all joining. And do follow us in our social media handles, led by community in LinkedIn.
Yeah,
and
I just sent my LinkedIn. Oh, thank you, Paula. You also did that. Thank you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to message me. I'm happy to talk about this. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, guys. See you all. Bye-bye.